Welcome to the Shulamite Podcast, an extension of Shulamite Ministries and Shulamite.com, with weekly interviews and teaching with author and speaker Martha Kilpatrick and hosted by John Enslow. This weekly podcast is a way to stay connected to the ministry. So come experience anointed messages, not giving just another method, but a living impartation.
And I'm excited, but I need to get into the joy end of it,
Yeah, it's been painful, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
For months now. So we have a new experience when we see that book. I'm sure God will give us.
Well, I'm hoping to be able to
joy.
do some videos with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, we got the cover, and when I showed you the cover, you wept.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I love the cover.
Oh.
And I can tell you all about the cover. It's when I was designing the cover, I saw the hands of the creation, Adam and God, and this literally the sovereign touch. You know,
Yes.
that was a painting of the sovereign touch. And but when I saw it, I said, it's not just the two fingers. It's a child's like hand holding a father's hand.
Yes, it is.
And I said, okay, the reason I'm seeing this is because only a child will accept God's sovereignty over all.
Wow, that's true.
If you are an adult, it's too hard to swallow. It's just too hard to swallow. But a child is able to accept from the hand of the Father what the Father gives. And that's what I've had to become over and over and over, is to become a child. And so it's a child's hand, a precious little child's hand with the little hairs on the back shining through the light. It's just a beautiful little hand. And he's holding the Father's hand, and the Father's holding his, and that's the sovereign touch. And so I was real excited. And then I went to go find that image. You know, I was willing to go try to figure it out and make it. But I was like going, okay, God, can I find this image? And I went almost immediately to it when I was searching for it. And I saw it, and I said, there it is, right there. That's exactly it. That is the picture. So it became the cover. And so I'm real excited about that cover.
Yeah.
Because everything I do, you know, in the podcast or in the blogs, I'm always doing a visual representation of the message. You know, if you watch the podcasts for, you know, as long as we can do that, I'm going to be, because the technology has changed, and I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do it like I'm doing it now. But the pictures are, if you look, the pictures are literally a reflection of what we are saying. I am literally praying and saying, how do you visualize this concept, which is not an easy thing sometimes because they're so ethereal. Well, you know, sometimes it can only be hands raised up. But then in the blog, I basically do the exact same thing. You've got the cover picture, and then you have the pictures along the posts, and they are referencing what is being stated. It's a visual representation, and that's kind of, you know, I'm a photographer and an artist, and that's kind of how I do it. So I've done the same thing in this book, where the cover is a visual representation, but inside the book, my life is a visual representation. It's literally a narrative, and that's, you know, my art, my painting has become kind of a narrative portraiture, where I'm telling a story in a moment, with a flash, with a single image. I'm trying to tell a story so that you want to go deeper into that story and figure out what's happening here. What is this about? It's not just someone sitting there. Right. There's a story behind it.
And what your book cover is full of life around those hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's color. It's
color and light and warmth.
And there's so much going on around the hands that the gift of the book is a piece of art.
Yeah, I love it.
Anyway, and
but you know, even the visual representation, I literally will give you a visual representation of the different aspects of God in His sovereign touch, so that you can visually see the reality. And Christ did that. That's how Christ connected
He
us.
painted word pictures.
He did
And
it.
that's what you're doing.
Exactly. It was parable after parable after parable, because that's how we learn, and that's how we get it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just, book smart, read it. We have to experience it. We have to see it. It's got to be touching our actual reality, and that's what this book does. I take it from your sovereign moment of birth, how your life was going to be set up, your parents, your siblings, your environment, everything. I take it from there. I move out to friends and external family and church and jobs, and then I go further out to governments and
evil
in the government, and then the world. I take it to every aspect. That's what I love about it, is I take it from the microcosm and I bring it out to the macrocosm, and then I bring it back to why it all is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I give the supreme reward for accepting the sovereign touch.
Yes, you do. Wow.
And I feel like I have covered the base on sovereignty pretty good.
And John, in my Bible, I've marked everywhere. The Lord says, "I did this so that you would know that I am God, and there is no other." And I marked that in green. So that's the ultimate message of the Bible: is God is God.
Yes.
And if we can ever come to know that, God over my pain, over my suffering, over my joy, over my opportunities, it makes the relationship with God into a revelation that He is God.
So I say in the intro, I say, laying this book out, I start with ground zero of our personal sovereign experience. It is here in the microcosm where sovereignty touches our individual lives and circumstances. As I proceed by expanding our view of the sovereign touch to the macrocosm by extending it out to our family, local authorities, national government, and finally the world. My goal is to illustrate God's sovereign rule and His blessing that comes when we embrace it. If God is truly sovereign, then the whole gamut of life is orchestrated by Him. Okay, this is what I've grabbed this for. In my experience, people tend to be mostly interested in how sovereignty personally affected their lives. I don't care, really, ultimately. I don't care how it affects everything else. I have to deal with how it affected me first. I have to face that. So I say childhood abuse, I intend to look at that. What about things that has crippled us emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually? That too I will address and explore. When talking about God's sovereignty, the most visceral reaction is to our pain and why God allowed it. And yes, I will look at that as well. You have to face. You can't face sovereignty. You can't blanket accept God's sovereignty without dealing with your own personal pain and suffering.
Well said.
You've taught me that. You've taught me that with your own life. You've shared with me stories of your life, and you've shown me how God's sovereignty impacted you, touched you, and brought you through. This revelation came with the wrapping, of me, but you're the one that ignited it in my life. You're the one that took this thing and took it to 11. Because, yes, I always had, God's sovereign wrestling and dealing with me in my life, yes. And I did struggle with Him on it and have, but your life impartation into me and your own personal acceptance of His sovereignty was what ignited me. It was a living impartation. See, I don't just say it's not a methodology, it's a living impartation. I don't just say that because it's a nice catchphrase. I say it because I've experienced it. You have done that to me. There was a impartation of the Spirit into my life and I'll listen to you, and we'll be talking in a podcast, or we'll be talking. I'll hear a message of the month that you do, or whatever, and you'll be saying something, and then all of a sudden, boom! I'm launching, whoosh, right up, and God is just filling in all the blanks to unite it and ignite it, both of them, with my own story. And so that's what I'm so grateful for. And I had to go through many, many, many painful situations, and even in getting this message, I mean, there was the 2 years of solitude and that I faced His sovereignty, screaming and yelling. It was, I say one point in this, it was like it was like a slaughter day at a pig farm. I mean, it was awful, and
and we've heard that out west, so
yeah, absolutely,
it's very real.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this impacts people. We've started the pre-order, and people are already pre-ordering it. It's got free shipping right now if you order it before we get the copies, and after that we'll charge shipping. But before then, we're just not going to charge any shipping, and so I hope y'all will take advantage of that.
We hope you've enjoyed the Shulamite podcast. For all the latest from Shulamite Ministries, please visit us at Shulamite.com, where you'll find Martha's daily devotions, posts from GetAlongWithGod.com, and the online library of all of Martha's writings. At Shulamite.com, downloading the free Shulamite app is easy, and LivingChristianBooks.com is only a click away. Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover a God worth knowing.